Mama's in the living room watching Judge Judy. I'm in the kitchen eating leftover sushi, and she yells, "Oh, girl, you gotta hear this one." A man was arrested for running the theme park, and when they said, "Where's your license?" he said, "My dog ate it." Oh, you can't make this shit up. Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, "Girl, you gotta hear this one." Mama loves to laugh at how absurd life is, says it's all a comedy and I'm her audience. And I love the way she makes fun of the world. She said, "You'll never guess what's with their girlfriend. It was a man who didn't get us out of the bed. He said, I've been through hell and now I need some help. You just can't make this shit up. You just can't make this shit up." Sometimes I wonder if life's just one big cosmic joke. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout. It's like she's on a Reddit, reading r/funny lawsuits, yelling from the couch. As she sips on a prosecco, makes fun of all the weirdos, and then I hear her shout, "Girl, you gotta hear this one."
Hey everybody, it's Squid. Happy Thursday. Welcome back to the channel and day 3 of our Hannah Dugan Motions in Limine Marathon. If you thought that the last 2 days that we've done this, we did the first part on Monday where we read the US's intro or motion in limine, which actually seemed like a motion in limine. Once again, preface this, not a lawyer, do not provide legal advice. I am not an analyst. I'm just a normal person who has a brain. It was proven in surgery that it's there. And a basic comprehension of the English language. Emphasis on basic. Wednesday, we went over Hannah Dugan's. Her first motion in limine seemed more like a repackaged, hiding behind judicial immunity, reconsider my motion to dismiss, not a motion in limine. And I don't know about y'all, but that fucking annoys me. And her second through 13 was packaged in one document, and I kind of agreed with some of it. Today, we are reading the responses. We started a little early because we have a lot to get to. We are reading both sides' responses. And today, with these documents, both sides woke up and chose violence as they started to write. We shall see what happens. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to be a long one. Strap in, grab your energy drink, pull up a chair, hit that like button, and let's go. Hope everybody is doing well. Christine, hi. Congratulations on being number 1. Good to see you. Gail, good to see you as always. Everybody dance. I love that intro. That song, that was the second song I made on Suno that actually worked. And I was like, I love this. Storm Killer, good to see you. Debbie Webb, as always, good to see you. And your smiling Muppet avatar face. We shall see how many times I clutch my proverbial pearls today. I found this necklace. Still have this necklace on. Rarely, if ever, take it off. Still have not found the engagement ring. Ammo's girl, good to see you as usual. How are you? Did you happen to see the storm or the picture that Spawn Trooper made for me yesterday? Josie, how are you? Yes, it is response time. I'll be lurking. I got something to take care of. And if you notice me ignoring chat, I'm kind of doing it on purpose because these documents are not awful long. The first one's 14 pages and the second one is 22. So they're not the longest documents we've ever read, but I would like to get through both of them today. So we are going to uh, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I just saw a comment that I was like, I'm lurking too, but not necessarily with Amos Girl. Hi, Prince of Wales, aka Zach, aka my number 2 fat shamer. I am going to the gym after this for open gym to work on some Olympic lifting and then do a workout. So yeah, because I had too much sugar last night. We chat, you read. Yes, that's the way it's gonna work. And I'm on top of it today. I have one document preloaded. Like I said, I'm on it today. All right. The defendant's response to the government's consolidated motions in limine. And if you notice me having to mute because I'm coughing up a lung, I didn't take my allergy medication yesterday and it's showing today. I skip one day. You better not have been stuffing your fat face. Yeah, Christmas tree cake got me yesterday. True. All right. This is the person in question. I'm just going to refer to him as EFR because in all of this, he has been deported. And quite frankly, in all of this, PSA, whatever you think of the immigration laws, do not get upset with people for enforcing laws. If you are upset, be upset with the people who make the law. I was having a conversation with my father this morning and literally was like, I need to do a stream on Congress's job and we need to post the office phone numbers of every congressman in America. So when people have a problem with the laws, you can contact your congressman and not bitch at the people enforcing the laws. Like, we have a separation of powers for a reason. Congress makes the law, the executive branch enforces the law, the judiciary is supposed to interpret the law. That's it. We are starting to commingle those things. Not good. But at the time, he has now been deported. In all of this, he is the least of, like, he is trivial. What he did is not important or nothing. So, you know. Josie, you need to bring those joints over to Squid's second channel. Yes, I am in the middle of scripting a video for my next video for over there. It has to do with balance. TLDR, balance systems, and how a nice little balance check one day can lead to a catastrophic fall the next day. All right. At the time, EFR left Judge Dugan's courtroom and entered the hallway. Federal agents seemed to have reconsidered the plan to arrest him in the courthouse. That contradicts the indictment. This case concerns events that happened in a very short time, less than 10 minutes. The context of what led up to those 10 minutes, particularly in the courthouse in the days prior, and what actually happened during those 10 minutes, will be central to the trial. Judge Dugan cannot mount a defense if she cannot show the jury what happened. We didn't do anything wrong. Oh my God. This is going to give me a headache. And hey, 3 awesome dogs. My Blazer officially died after replacing it looking at a Honda Civic. Good luck. Yes, it's 10 minutes. But this is another one of those cases where if you didn't do anything wrong, yeah. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah. The government, through its motion in limine, seeks to prohibit Judge Dugan from doing so. And once again, I hate this asterisk. Just put a 1. It's a footnote. Put footnote 1, like every other fucking lawyer on the planet. Even Bubbles puts 1. Anybody who puts an asterisk, to me, it might be allowable, it might be acceptable, it might be a thing, fine. But I have never seen any other lawyer do it. And when you do something as a lawyer that is different from the norm as far as formatting a document, to me, my brain goes to, you're just looking for attention. Formatting on a document is not where you want to be different. Just my personal opinion. Like I said, y'all can feel free to disagree with me. People do every day. And if you're gonna hate, unsubscribe, be sure to let me know down in the comment section because I need some entertainment. After Flores Ruiz emerged in the public hallway, 11 feet and 10 inches. Oh my God. No, this will not be like the other day, but it's just one of those situations where it's like, ay, ay, ay. Sometimes you just look at stuff and you're just like, you're putting the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable. You're focusing on the wrong crap. And when people focus on the wrong stuff, for example, we know Gingras and or Bubbles both, when Gingras started focusing on the judge and Bubbles, to be perfectly honest, when you start focusing on stuff that's not relevant and not important, my brain, because I'm weird like that, goes to, what are you hiding? What are you trying to distract me from? Same thing. You're focusing on how far away the door was that she sent him out of, instead of the fact that that is not a public doorway. It's not a public doorway. To the right of the courtroom door, the two agents in the hallway saw him and explained below on page 7. Those two agents did not arrest Flores Ruiz, but instead followed him to the elevator. One rode down with him, and agents then followed him outside, where they arrested him on a public street. The entire difference here was Flores Ruiz emerging less than 12 feet from where the agents expected him, in the same hallway and in full view of two agents, just as he would have if he used the courtroom door. Then why didn't you just let him use the courtroom door? It's these, like, why are you distracting us from the facts with numbers? Unimportant numbers. 11 feet, 10 inches. Less than 12 feet. Just because I was only speeding by 3 miles per hour does not make it any less illegal that I was speeding. The justification of a crime, how people try to justify their stupidity and their stupid actions. And I'm sorry, Judge Dugan, this was stupid. This was the stupidest shit you could have done. If you don't like the laws, talk to your damn congressman. You're a fucking judge. You have a little bit more, leeway and pull than the rest of us. Talk to Tammy Baldwin. I'm sure you two are joined at the frickin' hip anyway. Never mind. I'm not going to go there. Before April 18th, the day he was arrested outside the courthouse, Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent had made 2 prior arrests in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. In response, those arrests, Chief Judge Carl Ashley alerted the other judges that arrests were happening, issued a press release condemning the arrest, and circulated the draft policies advising judges and court staff how they should respond to ICE arrests going forward. Specifically, on April 3rd, Judge Ashley sent an email with the subject line of ICE taking people into custody in the public hallways in the courthouse complex. Throughout here, Judge Dugan uses the Bates numbers that the government provided. April 6th, he sent an email with the subject line press release regarding ICE detaining individuals within Milwaukee Courthouse complex. April 9th, email circulating draft ICE policy. April 10th, he sent an email circulating revised ICE policy. April 6th email, which was circulated to all judges, Chief Ashley wrote that the arrests were having a chilling effect and that courts must remain safe havens. Oh, shit. When is a courtroom a safe haven? No offense, but that's where fucking criminals are. We need to make criminals feel safe. So what now? Remember, this courthouse, just for context, because sometimes we need context to get a full story of who a group of people are. This was the same courthouse that let Daryl Brooks go on a $500, I believe, bond just prior to him going and running people over in the Waukesha County Christmas Parade. That is the group of people we are talking about when we are talking about this chief judge and the other people underneath him. That is the group of people you are dealing with in this document. When he's talking about the, Milwaukee County judges. The Milwaukee County judges are the people who let Daryl Brooks go before he killed people. Putting that in context. Just a FYI. Because Lord knows that we need criminals to feel safe, because if we make them feel safe, they won't do anything. Evil is evil. Evil is evil. April 6th email, which circulated to all the judges, he wrote that arrests having a chilling effect and that courts must remain safe havens from threat of immigration enforcement. Oh, this is one of the reasons I no longer live in Wisconsin. I'm sorry, harboring criminals. I'm sorry. And the people who say, politics aside, the people who say, well, they didn't do anything wrong, they are here illegally, which means they broke a law getting here. That, by definition, makes you a criminal. Do I need to break out a dictionary? Criminal is, by definition, someone who broke a law. And if you are in the country illegally, and you should not feel safe in a courthouse if you are here illegally. Sorry, just don't come. I mean, it's really, really sad that in 2025, we're having to tell people with very, very high degrees and supposed to be educated people the definition of a crime. Hey, Devil Fan. It's just kind of one of them situations where it's like, it's not rocket science. It's really not. Then in his April 9th email, Judge Ashley's draft policy required court personnel to promptly refer ICE agents to an immediate supervisor. The supervising judge, in turn, was required to notify either Judge Ashley or the court administrator of any ICE activity in the courthouse. See, just because, and here's the thing, they keep, no offense to circuit court judges, you have a place, you have a job to do, I get it. However, federal has more power than city or state, local, state at all. Like that hierarchy, the federal, sorry, you can't tell an ICE agent how to do their job because you are not their boss. It's not how that shit works. Just a Squid's third profession as a professor. I don't ever think I could be a teacher or a professor. I'd be really bad at it because I'd be like, I'd explain something. And now I understand I had one really bad professor that would go, well, if you read the book, you'd already know this. And then I found myself later in college when we'd be given the rubric or whatever for the semester, and people would not read it and then ask the professor questions that were like literally on page 1 of the first document you ever get in class. The first document you're ever handed in class during the semester or syllabus, and it's right in there, and it's like, stop asking stupid questions. She overstepped her authority and committed a crime, which is gross negligence, so her immunity is not valid. It's that simple. Remember that funeral that was invite only? Apparently Dick Cheney had an invite only funeral also. I was not invited to those He was my Secretary of Defense and my CEO at Halliburton. Well, I don't remember any funeral that's invite only, but, people gatekeep shit all the time, so I've never been to a funeral that's invite only, and I've never personally gatekeeped a funeral, but I know what you're talking about. April 10th, the revised draft policy, Judge Ashley required that he or the court administrator be given notice before an ICE agent makes an arrest. They can do that. If you tell an ICE agent you have to do this, they can oblige if they so choose and be nice. But at the end of the day, uh, unless that's a law in the city, is that a city ordinance or that's a state law or even a federal law, they really don't have to do that. That would be a courtesy. Further, he required ICE agents to certify they were following ICE protocols to identify them and to identify themselves. Uh, um, since I'm in the process of No, you're fine. For those of you who don't know, that was last year about this time when somebody that we all know and loved dearly passed away. Certain people wanted to go and were told that the funeral was invite only and they weren't invited. So before Chief Judge Ashley's emails, the judges had been emailing about peer-to-peer training for judges on ICE enforcement. Let ICE do their job. Although Judge Dugan could not attend the training, 2 other judges assured her that the other judges said that they would share any ideas this generates to the chief. One of those judges, Judge Perez, after the training, wrote an email on April 4th to the judges that ICE can legally conduct enforcement in public areas of the courthouse. Judge Perez's emails also contained a PowerPoint presentation that would partially form the basis of Chief Judge Ashley's draft policy. But the PowerPoint presentation had a slide saying ICE policy requires that civil immigration enforcement activities will take place in non-public areas of the courthouse. Note already the tension here. Where were ICE arrests supposed to take place? Quite frankly, wherever the hell that ICE wants them to take place. I don't always agree with certain things that ICE agents do. However, not my monkey, not my circus. You have a problem with them, you let them do their job, and then you take it up with their supervisors. Just like when we're going to dumb it down here to a traffic stop. If you have a problem with an officer during a traffic stop, you say, yes, sir, no, sir, can I go? And then you take it to court and you battle it out in court and you say that officer had, wrong, did his actions were wrong, or he broke this law, or he broke that statute, whatever. You don't sit there and argue with the cop because you're never gonna freaking win, ever. like never. You're never gonna win if you argue it right there on the scene. You let them do their jobs. You get their names, their badge numbers, their whatever, and then you take it up with whoever they report to. It's not a hard concept to me. Like, I don't know how this is so hard for other people to understand. Like, you don't like the laws. Sorry, but people still have a job to do and enforce them. You take it up with the people who made the laws. And you don't argue with it right there on the spot because you're never going to win. In fact, you might be charged with obstruction if you argue the fact right there instead of taking it up at a later date. What angers me with illegals is tolerating their actions makes those that came here legally should be reimbursed for the time and money they spend in obtaining citizenship. Yeah, and I think people on one side of the aisle get something like so confused that we're for ICE or we're for these these deportations or whatever, that we're against immigration. No. There's a specific word there that people And people skip the illegal part. We are against illegal immigration. Legal immigration, my grandparents or great grandparents came here as legal immigrants. So I'm definitely not against legal immigration. However, there is a way to do it. And the next comeback that people bring up is, well, the process is too difficult. Once again, talk to your damn congressman, tell them to get off their lazy asses, stop arguing with each other, and change the damn law. Like, there's always an excuse instead of an action. And when people make excuses instead of doing actions, it's like me and my diet. Oh, I was having a bad day, so I ate a Christmas tree cake yesterday. Instead of, oh shit, I should probably not do this. It's probably not a good idea for the long term. Like, instead of making excuses, oh, it was the stress. Oh, I had a bad day. Oh, this happened. No, stop making excuses and just act. When people make excuses for things, they don't have any real leg to stand on. There's always it's like, "Well, talk to your congressman." Well, they don't ever get along. Well, then vote somebody new in. They're Call them up and tell them how pissed off you are at them that they don't do their jobs. It's not Yeah. Yeah, like the ones that have filed to be here legally, why should anyone else get to just walk in illegally when the older generation did it legally? Exactly. None of it was easy, but they did it. Exactly. My ancestors came here legally from Canada. Hi, baby. What do you need? Oh, girl, you're all wet. Oh no, what happened? I might have to go do mama duties. We will finish this page and then I will go do a mama duties because her hair is wet and I don't know why. Um, I think she got into the ice. Where were ICE arrests supposed to take place? In public areas or non-public areas? Which places are public and which are not? The judges needed guidance. April 8th, Judge Dugan sent an email thanking Judge Ashley and Judge Perez and requesting that protocols be entered. As to count 2, the government is alleging that Judge Dugan acted with corrupt intent. This April 8th email is the clearest evidence of Judge Dugan's state of mind regarding ICE arrests. And then this is from Hannah Dugan. Good morning. Thanks for the information about incidents and concerns about ICE. Thanks to whatever for her information and CG Ashley for the public statement. Various emails states arrests in the courthouse have been discussed as different, but they have qualifications and at least understood. I'm sorry, you're a judge, which means you have an advanced degree and you can't type understood as one word. I get really picky about grammar when somebody's supposed to be smarter than me and they're trying to hide behind something that they're smarter than the rest of us. And informal, if not required, protocols. The ICE detentions are a different animal, and current historic protocols are now shifting quickly. I've seen in my court more people not showing up for court dates. I have 2 immigration attorneys asking me just today about what protocols are in place. I'm suggesting that a judges meeting be called with corporation counsel as soon as possible. It would be helpful for me and I hope other judges and by extension to the public and other county staff and electeds to have a discussion with each other about the outstanding issues, identify the concerns to be addressed, and develop a consistent set of protocols to be implemented and followed in the Milwaukee Circuit Courts. Optimally, it would be great to have at least a draft of written protocols for the safety building, the courthouse, and children's court. We are in some uncharted waters with some very serious and even potentially tragic community interests at risk in the balance. Oh my God. The state of mind here says I'm a psychopath. Oh, oh my goodness. I don't think I could pass the bar. However, it does make me wonder how others did. Ugh. Like, I don't think I'm not one of those people who thinks I could go and take the bar tomorrow and pass it, Fleesa, example. However however oh, there's side note, there has been a certain senator from frickin' Georgia who we don't really claim who thinks he's a reverend, but does not act like one. Um, he, uh he, wants Bobby Kennedy to resign because of a measles outbreak. Well, here's the thing. 1, people can still get vaccinated if they so choose, and most people do in general. Second, there's measles outbreaks every year. And 3, maybe like the millions of people that came over here illegally flooding across our southern border who may or may not be vaccinated for anything might have contributed to some illnesses getting spread around the country. Just a thought. But no, it's one person in Washington's fault because you don't like him. Ah, this right here. And this is one of the reasons, not gonna lie, this is one of the reasons I don't live in Wisconsin anymore. Um, but it's 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 bad. Measles outbreak. I wonder if undocumented people who didn't get vaccine. Yeah. All right. Given the effects on the justice system, all the parties, witnesses, jurors, litigants, and the individual cases each of us hear, each of us hear, comma, it would be helpful to be clear on the new parameters within which we are to work in which a fair and efficient justice system can operate. Hannah Dugan. P.S. Having asked for this, FYI, about 8 of us are going to be at a judicial ed from tonight until Friday noon in Door County. I'm willing to meet on weekend if necessary. This is my thing. I am only grammar Nazi-ish with one, people who are trying to insult me and can't do it with a straight, like, can't do it with proper grammar because then they get pissed. And took a page out of Mr. Squid's playbook. If there is something that I know gets under your skin and annoys you, I will keep doing it for the sheer entertainment value. Mr. Squid is that kind of person. If he knows what gets under your skin, he will do it every single day of the week just because he knows it annoys you, and he will watch you break down and get triggered every single time and will laugh in your face. I am that person. Secondly, this is someone who is supposed to be of a higher standard and smarter than the rest of us. And if you're supposed to be smarter than me, act like it. Just a thought. All right, now I really got to go do mama duties really quick because she started the robot vacuum cleaner, and if she spilled water at all, this is not going to be pretty sight. So I will be right back. Mama duties. All right, thanks for your patience. She turned her little activity table into a puddle and was just beating on that table. It was funny. It's cute, but it's messy. All right, back to this. You know. All right. So Judge Dugan was aware that the protocol was in rapid flux and had lawyers asking her what the rules were and wanted to have a discussion about issues that this indictment embraces. She was trying to ascertain and follow the judge's rules. Follow the rules. The PowerPoint presentation sent to both Ashley and Dugan had a slide saying ICE policy requires that civil immigration enforcement activities will take place in non-public areas of the courthouse. April 10th, Ashley circulated a draft policy that required agents to certify that they have followed their agency protocols prior to making arrests. That is not his concern. That is him obstructing. That is him obstructing. Ashley's draft policies differentiated between administrative and judicial warrants, prohibited ICE from executing administrative warrants in non-public areas by prohibiting court personnel from allowing ICE agents to enter non-public areas of the courthouse. That is not his job. Once again, the very definition of legislating from the bench. Drafting a policy on who can make arrests is not his job. I don't know how many times this needs to be said, but that's not his job. Not his job. I don't know how much we need to stress that, but not his job. It's really not. I don't know. And thanks to the one person who hit the down button, I had to check because Gail said 22 likes, 25 in chat. Well, there's one person watching who disliked the chat. Hi, Max Lab. There is nothing in this thing that you're going to be able to screenshot and show to your little ass kissing leaders. Sorry. But you can screenshot this. Sit on it and spin, boy. Oh, wait, you like that too much. Never mind. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. That was just funny. And thank you, Unhung Hero, for the 50 Squid Pro Quo memberships. My goodness. My goodness. Holy good. Yep. Oh, my God. I can't. Well, yeah, but that doesn't stop me from, pointing it out. Because it's entertaining to me at this point. So, at this point, it's a giant joke because it's like, thanks for the ad revenue, buddy. Whoa, and those names just keep coming. They just keep coming. All right. AJ, the expert, got a gift membership. AJ and the expert. All right. Let's get on with this document because we are 4 pages in and almost 40 minutes. We're not doing too bad. Oh, Miami Spice, good to see you. That would be Unhung Hero. He just gifted 50. There are so many of our officials these days stepping outside their job description. I believe that supervisors or higher authorities have failed to do their jobs. Yeah, and now the problem lies with this is just my personal opinion, but when people actually start being held accountable, now it's like, oh, it's political or they're attacking. It's like, no, it's just for about a decade, maybe longer. People have not been held accountable. And now when people get held accountable, they all of a sudden it's like political warfare. And it's like, not necessarily. Maybe in some instances, probably. But generally, just looking at things, when someone has gotten away with BS behavior for so long and now they're being held accountable, karma always catches up to you. Karma is a bitch and she keeps receipts. Just saying. And poor Maureen, thanks for the $10 super chat. I bought a new computer yesterday, returned it today. I'm not into witchcraft. Turned it on once and the thing said it had a startup wizard. No, sir, not not me, not today. Probably not, but you don't have to be in chat to get a gifted membership. And I think that's where people get confused. But I did see that he was on the list of people that got one. And hey, living life. All right, we're getting back into this. Chief Judge Ashley's draft policy, borrowing heavily from the PowerPoint slides, also said court personnel may not authorize the entry of immigration agency personnel into non-public areas of any court facility and must promptly refer immigration agency personnel to their immediate supervisor or manager. If an immigration agency officer insists on access to a non-public area, the employee should not resist, but should say, I do not consent because I have no other choice at this time. I will not interfere with your order. And immediately contact their supervisor about the officer's order, prepare a written statement about the encounter, and submit it to their supervisor. That seems like a lot of work. Once again, a lot of work that should not be happening because this is not a judge's job. Like, I understand he runs the courthouse, but like, this is where you need to talk to the mayor. It died? Yeah. Okay. Can you plug it in? Here, give Mama the plug. Thank you. Oh, thank you. Hey, hugs. Where's my hug? Angel bug. Oh, okay. No hug for mommy. I feel so unloved. This is where the chief judge should have talked to the mayor or the chief of police and figured something out. It's not his job to tell immigration what they can and can't do when they're following lawful orders. The government indicted Dugan falsely telling ICE agents they needed a judicial warrant. But if both Chief Judge Ashley and Judge Dugan were informed that ICE policy required arrests to take place in non-public places of the courthouse, and Chief Judge Ashley's policy prohibits ICE from executing administrative warrants in non-public places of the courthouse, then indeed the only viable option for ICE arrests in the courthouse that comply with ICE policy, and this is the problem, I don't believe, I could be wrong, but I really do not believe that he has the power to make that policy. And I think that is where the disconnect is. She thinks he has the power to make that policy. He thinks he has the power to make that policy. But by law, he does not have the power to make that policy. He is a judge, not a lawmaker. That is where, if I could see the mayor or the city council making an ordinance, ICE arrest can happen. Still don't think that's legal in the sense of federal Trump state any day. However, I believe that would be a better way to go about it. At least the city council has the authority to make a law or an ordinance about this. The chief judge doesn't. If I'm wrong, please enlighten me. Yeah, follow the law, not make them. This is this is different than being like, please do not check your work email outside of work hours because you'd be working off the books. Like, that's a policy, but that is a policy that conforms with a law of, hey, you can't, I can't pay you overtime. Please don't check, because it's illegal to work outside of work hours. Kind of a situation. Whereas this is like, this is making an ordinance where he doesn't have the power to do that. And I think that's where the problem lies. Now that I'm reading this, I truly think that I honestly think that this is where, because they're basically saying that the indictment is factually wrong. Like, it, it just doesn't add up to me. And it seems like, well, she was trying to follow protocol. Yes, but that protocol was not correct. And chief judges still have to follow the law and the Constitution. Look at California. Newsom is being investigated for not following federal law. Oh, that's a shocker. I doubt anything will happen because he's seems to slam his way out of stuff. But just looking at this, it's like it her state of mind says that he has the right to do this, so I'm following him, and if anybody's in the wrong, it's him, not me. And whether ICE can arrest people on a administrative warrant is not a Milwaukee County circuit or Milwaukee County chief judge's discretion. That's Homeland Security's job. A warrant is a warrant, be it as judicial or administrative. If I have an administrative warrant out for my arrest, I would get arrested. Both are equally valid. I mean, that's plain language. Seems like easy enough to understand, but it's like going to him making a policy. It's not his place to make a policy. That policy is illegal or unconstitutional or whatever phrases you would want to, Court personnel may not authorize entry of immigration agency personnel into non-public areas of any court facility and must promptly refer immigration agency personnel to their immediate supervisor or manager. That's not the point. Like, yeah. On April 18th, when according to draft policy, ICE agents arrived in Chief Judge Ashley's office, they, along with court administrator, had a phone call with the chief judge that lasted 8 minutes. During that call, agents asked Chief Judge Ashley whether they had permission to make an arrest in a public hallway or a courtroom. Ashley declined to give them permission because he wanted to work out an agreement with ICE. He also declined to explain what areas were public and what areas were not. She's literally, to me, this is her throwing her chief judge under the bus. Under the bus. Pics look like the Grim Walker. Yeah, I mean, I tried to choose a pic for the thumbnail that wasn't like god awful, but I mean, I didn't have much to work with here. Wisconsin sub office. Yeah, that Chief Judge Ashley stated that ICE ERO personnel were prohibited from entering designated private areas like the courtroom. Vasconellis asked Chief Judge Ashley if he would be able to explain to him the delineation between the private courtroom and the public hallway, or if the chief judge had also designated a public hallway as a private area. Judge Ashley reiterated that such designations would have to be concluded via an agreed upon policy between Milwaukee County Circuit Courts and ICE. What? Yeah. And that's why they followed him outside, because of what the judge says. She also tried to make that, well, they followed him outside. I'm sorry, whatever lawyer wrote this, did anybody just realize that they contradicted themselves? And I didn't realize it until right now. I didn't realize it until this very second. But when she had mentioned earlier in this document that, well, they didn't arrest him in the hallway anyway, they followed him outside. This is why the phone call. You just contradicted yourself. 1 minute, Angel, you have to stay here and use it. You have to stay here and use it. It's only got 2%. It's only got 2%. It's gonna die. We still haven't understood the concept of we have to keep it plugged in to charge. I know it's yours, but you have to let it charge. Gotta let it charge, baby. I think a lot of people are saying she's writing a lot of this stuff. I would not doubt it. I don't think that one person wrote this. And I'm starting to come to the conclusion that I really don't think one person writes any single document because of the amount of backtracking or contradictions that I've seen in things. Just like saying, well, they didn't arrest him until he went outside. Like that was supposed to be a win for them. But then putting in here the text of the phone call and quotes from the phone call that say, well, the chief judge said he would not delineate what was a public or private area. So the ICE agents, actually following the judge's policy, didn't arrest him until he went outside. But that still does not, Jeffrey, I need you to finish my sentence for me. This still does not negate the fact that she let someone leave out a non-public door, even though it was less than 12 feet, 11 feet, 10 inches. Why they got so specific, I don't know. And who went out there and measured? Heaven only knows. However, they got so specific, but it's being bad at a crime does not make it any less of a crime. Trying to steal from an ATM and having to break down the door and like waiting for the cop or not being done before the cops show up and getting caught, that's a really bad criminal. The TV show World's Dumbest Criminals, trying to rob somebody and leaving your cell phone. World's Dumbest Criminals. Being bad at a crime and getting caught does not make it any less of a crime. And also, don't commit crimes when they're on camera. Have we not learned anything? I don't advocate for anybody committing a crime. However, if you're going to be an idiot and do something stupid and obviously illegal, don't do it where it's on camera. Oh, telling me why you broke a law doesn't mean it was okay to break it. Yes, thank you. And Tammy Maine, thanks for the $5 super chat. Support for following the law and constitution, some for squid and baby squid. Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's kind of like it seems like they're throwing a piece of spaghetti at the wall, coming up with anything and everything out there to see what sticks. Yeah. Here, just because you have an unindicted co-conspirator doesn't make you any less of a criminal. Exactly. Just because you have a getaway driver that didn't get caught doesn't make them any less of a criminal or you any less of a criminal. Well, they drove me away. Yeah, you're the one who robbed the bank. In this case, ignorance of the law is not a defense. Yes, thank you, chat, for helping me out with that one, because you all know me better than me sometimes when I'm trying to say something and I'm like, it's right there, but my brain will not let me say it or will not let me say it in a YouTube-friendly way. When the agent saw him exit the public hallway, they texted the supervising agent who was in Chief Judge Ashley's chambers. Guy's heading out now with his attorney. Supervising agent responded by not by telling them to arrest him, but by telling them to follow him. Follow him, please. Follow him. This is almost like, who are these lawyers? Like, she did not write this because she is not this stupid. Like, I mean, maybe she is, but I don't see the point of adding this. This makes you look guilty as hell, and that makes these ICE agents look like they were trying to follow the chief judge's fake policy. I mean, sometimes you just wonder what the hell. If she would have just let him go out the front door or out the regular courthouse or courtroom door, this would not be an issue. But you let him go out a side door, a non-public door. You didn't do a good job at concealing him, but that doesn't mean you didn't try. The government now seeks to exclude evidence that provides this crucial context and demonstrates what Judge Dugan understood she was required to do. More, the government seeks to exclude evidence showing that Judge Dugan had no corrupt intent, an element of one of the offenses she's charged with, to disrupt the agents. She asked for guidance, received it, and followed it, and her actions demonstrate that she had no corrupt motive. I'm sorry, you all had corrupt motive. Like, this whole county has corrupt motive. Ask me how I know. As to count 2 requires the government to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, so also necessarily Judge Dugan to dispute. Judge Dugan responds now to each of the government's motions in limine. Preclude defendant from mentioning potential punishment. Dugan doesn't object. Motion to prohibit defendant from presenting evidence, argument, or remarks designed to induce jury nullification. And this was a big thing that I think she would try to do. That's just my opinion. Including but not limited to the appeals for the jury to decide the case based on their personal views of immigration policy and enforcement. Yeah, whatever you think of the immigration policies in this country and how they're enforcing them is not what's at question here. You could hate the policies. That's not the general ICE agent. That is not, they have a job to do. That is not their area of concern. If you don't like the policy, go to the people who made the policy, not the people who are enforcing the policy. Corruption on corruption equals, let me guess. Yeah, right, corruption. Judge Dugan does not object to the government's request to prohibit her from arguing for jury nullification or appealing to jurors to decide the case based on their personal views of immigration policy enforcement. But Dugan intends to present evidence and make arguments designed to persuade the jury to find her not guilty, just as the government will present evidence and make arguments designed to persuade the jury to find her guilty. It's unclear what evidence inducing jury nullification would be. Bullshit. Throwing the bullshit flag on that one. Or why the court would admit that evidence if it had no proper evidentiary purpose. Judge Dugan requests that the government clarify what evidence it is concerned about. It's concerned about you running your mouth because you've gone to the media already. And anybody who instantly goes to the media and tries to get the public on their side instantaneously over time, when shit doesn't go your way and you're like, okay, we need like backup, I can see. But like, you instantly went crying to the media because you got charged instead of being a woman, putting your big girl panties on and just sucking it up. You went to the media. You went to the media to try to get the public on your side. And guess what? Public, not on your side. Generally, I try to stay pretty fair about the way I read stuff, but at a certain point, like, the stupidity is just overwhelmingly leaning toward one side. Motion to bar discovery request or commentary regarding discovery in the presence of the jury is not opposed to the general idea of not arguing discovery disputes in front of the jury. Obviously, however, both parties will be commenting on discovery throughout the trial. Example, a question, answer, comment during the trial that document was produced by the government is proper and necessary, as may be the timing of that production. I don't disagree with that. I mean, I feel like the government should have been very, very specific because after all, she is a judge, she is a lawyer, and is very specific. And if you're not super specific in what you're asking for, like when I write a goal for a patient, well, I didn't, well, when I discussed writing a goal for a patient, it was patient will do this many times by this date with this level of independence. It was super freaking specific. It was measurable. It was specific for a reason. One, I can say yes or no, measurable, did they meet it? But also, it doesn't leave any room for questioning. There's no room for interpretation there. There's no room for trying to wiggle out or for insurance not to pay because I didn't write it correctly. There's no room for interpretation with anything. I believe, my personal opinion, I'm not a legal writer, not a lawyer, but if I were writing a motion, I'd be super specific. Because that way there's no room for error. There's no room for argument. I wrote what I wrote. We're not arguing it. There's nothing to argue. Motion to bar defendant from defining reasonable doubt. No objection. She will follow Seventh Circuit's decision in U.S. v. Alex Janos and its progeny. Dugan, however, reserves her right to argue that the government has not carried its burden, as she should. If nothing, an example needs to be made of this judge not letting her off the hook, if for no other reason than show there are limits to judicial immunity. And one of the reasons that I'm following this case is not only because shit like this is one of the reasons that I don't live in that county. It's one of the reasons that I left Wisconsin so easily is the politics of this particular county. Not these judges. I've never had an interaction with Milwaukee County judges. I've never needed to. I've never been on a jury up there. I've never been arrested. Probably should have been arrested more than one time. The only thing that I've gotten in Milwaukee County is I think no, I didn't even get a ticket from that. Never mind. I don't think I've ever gotten a ticket in Milwaukee County. I've gotten a speeding ticket in Racine County, but I don't think I've ever gotten a ticket in Milwaukee County for speeding. Not that I can remember anyway. If someone finds out that I do, it's news to me. However, that being said, politics up there are one of the reasons that I no longer live there. This is an interest to me, not only because it show the bass-ackwards politics of some places in this country. It's personal to me because I have family there. Also, I'm hoping that this sets precedent on people will be starting to be held accountable for their actions, however shitty they may be, or not shitty they may be. You fuck up, you gotta have consequences. Whether it be a slap on the wrist and something like a letter in your file, or if it's jail time. The government though has never asked for jail time for this in their original indictment and charging documents. They never asked for jail time. So if you ever hear people say she's looking at this much, the government has never said they wanted jail time. So it's kind of bullshit when you hear people say that. They've never asked for it. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. Well, if for nothing else, the policy. But she threw that judge completely under the bus in this document. Yeah, it appears she included her coworkers in this crime. You know? Hey, Spawn. All right. Motion to preclude defendant from eliciting her own out-of-court statements, including a self-serving statement she made to MPD on April 22nd. Without additional context or a more specific request, it is difficult to respond to this motion. It's really not. I could respond to it. Request to require the government to produce the full transcripts of audio recording and identify the portions of the audio recording it intends to introduce at trial. If the government contends that some of the statements Judge Dugan made to police officers are hearsay, it should identify those. First, out-of-court statements are not necessarily hearsay. Federal rules of evidence. Second, statements offered for a relevant purpose other than their truth are not hearsay at all. Rules of evidence 801C. And third, even hearsay may be admissible depending on the evidence the government elicits. More rules of evidence. Motion to bar argument or questioning concerns of the motives of law enforcement. She objects to this motion. The indictment alleges that the agents plan to arrest him in a public hallway. The government then has put the agent's intentions and motives at issue. Presumably, the government itself will be introducing evidence of its agents' motives and plans. Judge Dugan has a right to meaningful cross-examination once that door is open. U.S. v. Martin. Moreover, evidence shows bias always is relevant. Oh my goodness. See also U.S. v. Abel. Bias is broadly admissible on issues of credibility. She has no credibility. In my opinion, she has no credibility. Finally, the government made a rushed charging decision, which required the agents to attempt to fit their investigation to the previous charging decision. This made the agents work backwards. Not necessary. Where's your proof? Where's your proof? And it bears directly on whether the government can prove the elements of its case. For example, the indictment alleges that the agents planned to arrest him in the public hallway. The evidence shows they actually decided to arrest Flores only outside the courthouse. Was what evidence? Because oh my god, this is giving me this is making me go, are you stupid or are you purposely trying to mislead the judge here? Because the text messages that she just showed above said follow him, meaning they were intending to arrest him outside, but because of what Judge Ashley had said and the policy that he wanted, he did not delineate whether the public hallway was a public area. Make that one make sense? I don't want to get in any of these people's heads and analyze that because I have very little brain cells to lose. Hold on one second. Okay. The evidence shows they actually decided to arrest him outside the courthouse. No, they followed him because they were following your policy. The government is attempting to use a motion in limine to cover its error. No, you attempted to use a motion in limine as a motion to reconsider your motion to dismiss. So don't give me that. They're attempting to use a motion in limine for something that it's not supposed to be. Pot, meat, kettle. Oh, I need a pot. Spawn or Ammo or whoever, somebody who's really good at AI and graphics, can you make me a pot, meat, kettle graphic? Because I mean, I say that a lot. Pot, meat, kettle. To the extent that the agents denied their plan changed, in contradiction to the record evidence. Dugan should be able to demonstrate and explain to the jury why they are motivated to change their stories. When the government adds a specific detail to an indictment, it becomes essential to the charged crime and obviously relevant. Yep, there it is. Confuse the situation to cover your actions. Yeah, I mean, so if I were doing, it happens to me all the time. I'm going to do something, planning on something with friends or something, texting them, and then being like, well, we'll do this instead. Or, hey, just stay there. I'll be right there. Or I'll meet you there instead. Just because that's not what they did does not mean that when you had a briefing before you left your office, because God knows law enforcement and military, they sure as shit like their briefs and their debriefs and their paperwork. So I'm sure that there is, in their briefing beforehand, they said, we're going to try to arrest him in the hallway so that he doesn't evade us. And then everything that worked out, they're like, it's probably not a good idea. We'll ruffle some more feathers if we do it. We're just not going to just follow him. They followed him. And when they were outside, they decided to arrest him because then the chief judge can't do shit on a public sidewalk. So it's one of those situations of just because the original plan, when does shit ever go to plan? The only difference between a judicial warrant and administrative warrant is whether an appointed judge or a hired judge determines probable cause. No, no, no. Please do not debrief this Karen. This when the government alleged the plan was a public hallway arrest, just like it alleged Dugan falsely told agents they needed a judicial warrant. It now must prove its allegations, and importantly, she may dispute both allegations in the indictment. Motion to bar testimony, argument, or commentary to the effect that a judicial warrant is required for the arrest of an individual under immigration laws. She objects to this motion. Again, the government made this an issue. It alleges Dugan committed obstruction by confronting members of ICE task force and falsely telling them that they needed a judicial warrant to effectuate the arrest of EFR. It now seeks a pretrial order that its allegations are true. Moreover, the indictment alleges that Judge Dugan knew that the warrant had been issued for him. Evidence of what Judge Dugan knew will overlap significantly with what was actually true. Sorry, that sentence could be taken multiple ways, and uh uh, uh mm-mm. I got nothing for that. I got nothing good for that anyway. Motion to bar evidence or argument concerning the arrest of defendant, alluding to alternative means of bringing her before the court for an initial appearance. Judge Dugan objects. At trial, Judge Dugan must be permitted to discredit the caliber of the investigation or the decision to charge the defendant, including by an attack on the integrity of the investigation. Kyles v. Whitley. If agents are being pressured by their supervisors to match the evidence to a hasty and inaccurate charging decision that bears on their bias, motive, credibility, and the integrity of the investigation. Her 10th motion in limine. Motion to bar evidence or comment concerning the duration of the investigation, namely the length of the interval between the alleged crime conduct and the issuance of criminal charges. She objects to this motion. Again, she must be permitted to discredit the caliber of the investigation or the decision to charge the defendant, including by discrediting of the police methods employed in assembling the case and the thoroughness and even good faith of the investigation as well. Accountability, it's really not that hard. Like, it didn't seem like this investigation would take that long, especially when you have the person that she was aiding and abetting or concealing in custody. So I'm sure that he spilled the beans in effort to not be deported. Because there's one thing that, even though he's been deported and his actions don't really bear on this, he still was most likely interviewed by the government. And there's a good chance that he spilled his guts and everything that he knew or was told by Dugan in an effort to cut a deal and stay in the country. Just a thought. It's one of those things that I have never heard anybody on the news talk about, as to what the person in question here, the illegal immigrant in question, what he actually told investigators. And not wanting to leave the country and be deported, I'm sure he probably spilled his guts at any hope to stay. So it didn't seem like it needed to be that long of an investigation. It's not like she unalived somebody kind of a situation where that takes time, talking to many people, certain things, certain a caliber of evidence needs to be investigated in a crime such as, that versus something like this. This is the pretty open and shut. Like, ugh. And you're never gonna make anybody happy. You go too long and it's gonna be like, "Well, why'd you wait a month to charge her? What were you doing in the investigation that you waited a month to charge her?" You're not they're gonna bitch about it either way. Hey, Steven. Oh, the haste is relevant. It goes to bias, accuracy of fact finding, and the quality and reliability of the investigation. Motion to bar argument that the defendant should not be convicted because she did not succeed. That this is just right here is like, I suck at being a criminal, therefore I should not be prosecuted. She's already informed the court on her arguments of materiality. The government must prove that she materially obstructed an arrest. Additionally, government alleges that she corruptly endeavored to influence, obstruct, and impede a proceeding by committing affirmative acts to assist him in evading arrest in public hallways outside of her courtroom. Again, government has made this an issue by including it in the indictment. Specific language in an indictment that proves detail beyond the general elements of the crime makes the specific or specified detail essential to the charged crime and must therefore be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Judge Dugan's going to argue that she's not guilty. Obviously. Thank you for letting us all know that. One reason she's not guilty, contrary to the indictment, is that at least by the time he emerged into the hallway, and maybe before, there was not a plan to arrest him in the hallway that she could have corruptly endeavored to obstruct. Okay, playing devil's advocate, even if she is right that they did not plan to arrest him in the hallway, they still wanted to follow him to keep track of his whereabouts. And if you let him leave and they might not have seen him, because say they would have had someone fixed on the front on the door of the courthouse and may not have seen him. That just because you're a bad criminal does not make you any less of a criminal. Yeah, right here. Yeah, attempted unaliving, no longer a crime because you failed. Thank you for letting your view count. And I'm not really sure how that whole thing is working because I know that comments help with the engagement. And sharing the stream too will definitely help. Because we got some subscribers to recoup. Just in case you weren't here the other day. Tuesday I kind of went off. Motion to bar evidence of other ICE enforcement actions in the Milwaukee County Courthouse. She objects. Previous ICE arrests at Milwaukee County Courthouse are relevant to her subjective mindset. It goes to the element of corruption in count 2 at the very least. Moreover, those arrests prompted emails that the government intends to use at trial. The context of those emails is relevant to how they were understood by their recipients. Oh, look, somebody that puts understood as one word. Including Judge Dugan. Motion to bar evidence, defendant's alleged good motives. Judge Dugan does not know what evidence the government seeks to bar here. She intends to elicit evidence and make arguments about her state of mind. Her good character is also relevant and admissible. Whatever. Motive to bar evidence on defendant's prior good acts. She objects to this motion because it's unclear what the government's intending to include. You saying, well, I have 10 years of good service and I've never done anything like this before. Did they not allow a federal detainer? If there was a federal detainer, she would not have been able to allow him to leave. I don't know. I'll share this not out of it. And thank you to those individuals who shared the video on my other channel and took the time to comment over there. I appreciate you. I want those videos to get more views than these videos. All right. So guess what? We actually finished a document in less than an hour and a half. On that note, we are going to get to my sidebar. This one as fast as possible. I on that channel over there, I dropped a video on Wednesday. So yesterday afternoon a video dropped over there. It's only got like 50 some views. So, but I only have 192 subscribers over there, so, you know, I lost a subscriber over there. I'm thinking that's the YouTube's algorithm being crazy. And thanks for the person who just sent me the picture of still images from um the UPS thing. I did reach out to a certain pilot with a YouTube channel to see if um he wants he would be willing to talk to me. I doubt he will because he's a very upstanding creator. He's a Navy vet. Um he's a P3 pilot. Most of you know who he is. However, I'm a little crude on this channel, and he is very like he's a very upstanding citizen. So I don't know if he will come on this channel because of my, because I'm a little aggressive. Like, I'm a little aggressive and he's not. But I wanted to get through all of Judge Dugan's stuff before we moved on to another topic. Um I think that's how I'm going to do it. I might pick like the topic of the week and see like if we can make it through all the important things in that situation before we move on to another thing, so I'm not having to revisit these next week. And then the next time that a batch of documents gets released, we can go from there. Make sure we making sure we try to organize this a little bit better so I can talk about all these things. Um so I can talk about all these things without getting confused or having to go revisit and be like, 2 weeks ago we talked about so and so. Not juice, quit, aggressive, crude, or is it just life attitude adjustments? Some need to hear. Um, yeah, but Tammy, but me on this channel compared to me on that other channel is like you know, me telling people that your writing sucks, or me telling people, hey, this is how not to fall. You can see now why I wanted that information on a completely separate channel. Because that information that's not crude, it's not rude, it's supportive, it's community building. Like, you can see now one of the main reasons that I wanted that on a separate channel. Detainers always come with administrative warrants per policy, which makes it interesting, and I have not seen anything come out about that. Not that I can find, but also Milwaukee's media is very, very progressive in the fact that you probably won't hear that. All right, this is the response to defendant's motion in limine. This is 22 pages. We're going to get through it as fast as possible because I have about an hour, less than an hour. November 7th, defendant filed 13 motions in limine. One was set forth in a standalone document. The other 12 were included in a separate filing. Here's the response. 1, because it's nothing more than a restyled version of her previously rejected immunity arguments, the court should deny the defendant's first motion in limine. I mean, I'm going to just go with that. Parties litigated the motion extensively. The courts ultimately agreed with the government that the doctrine of judicial immunity did not shield the defendant from criminal prosecution. That ruling was made in August. With the trial a month away, the defendant has now filed a motion in limine by her own admission, an unusual one, asking the court to reconsider its immunity ruling. Basically, a motion to reconsider. Barring that, the defendant would like the court to do the next best thing, invite the jury through its instructions to make irrelevant distinctions between official and unofficial conduct. Such distinctions would encourage the jury to deem any conceivable official judicial act lawful, and therefore beyond the scope of its consideration. In effect, this would confer partial judicial immunity and put much of the government's proof off limits. Instead of going down this twisted path, the court should reaffirm its carefully reasoned ruling on judicial immunity and craft jury instructions that are consistent with that ruling as proposed by the government. So, for those of you who haven't heard, the magistrate judge and then the district judge each put out a nice little order. One was like 25 pages and one was 27. These women like to type. And it was very thorough. It was very long, but it was very thorough. The name of my other channel is Evidence Through Motion. Gail put it up. Can you put the link? It's YouTube. Evidence Through Motion. Yeah, and Spawn, put your second channel there too. And hi, Barbara. How are you doing? Oh, well, you push people. I don't push people. Jesus. You're very welcome. You'll notice a big distinction between the content on that channel and the content on this channel. A very big distinction, not only in pace, language, type of videos, content, just, so when you see it, you'll see why they were completely separate. All right. The correct approach is to permit the jury to consider all of the defendant's conduct on April 18th in deciding whether she concealed, harbored an alien under Section 1071 or corruptly endeavored to obstruct or impede a proceeding under 1505. In her first motion in limine, I like how they put it in quotes because I have read quite a few motions in limine over the past, I would say, 3 years of reading documents. Only a year and a half on this channel, but before that, offline. This is the first one that I have seen motion in limine in quotes. And her proposed jury instructions, the defendant repeatedly cites U.S. v. Edwards and U.S. v. Matthews for the proposition that an act that one has a legal right to undertake does not obstruct or hinder. However, Edwards involved a jury that was not instructed as to the meaning of the word corruptly in 18 U.S. Code 1512 because the trial judge erroneously believed the circuit's pattern in instruction defining that term would not aid the jury. Oh. On one, she's a cut up. On the other, she talks about fixing up what's broken. There you go. And that's Spawn's gaming channel, too. The appellant in Matthews argued unsuccessfully that the corruptly instruction given his case, which arose under 18 U.S. Code 1512, failed to distinguish sufficiently between criminal and innocent acts of obstruction. Taken together, Edwards and Matthews stand for the proposition that defining the term corruptly to require wrongful conduct accurately reflects the law by ruling out as obstruction acts ought not to be deemed criminal. Such as an attorney advising his client to withhold documents pursuant to a valid claim of privilege. Arthur Anderson versus U.S. These cases did not involve judges and certainly did not hold that official judicial acts are always immune in a Section 1505 or 1071 prosecution. They are jury instruction cases, not immunity cases. Interesting. I love when you get the other side and the context of a case versus just one side. Because when the other side gives it more context, you get a full picture of what the case is actually about, not just what one side wants you to hear. Same thing in news. That's one of the reasons I let people in my chat that I don't always agree with, because sometimes they say stuff and you start to get a bigger picture of what's going on instead of just listening to one person. Hey, Ricky Bobby. The jury in this case will be properly instructed as to the mens rea element if the court instructs that the defendant must have acted corruptly i.e. with an improper or wrongful purpose. Oh yes, the mens rea. It's not it's not contagious. Hey, Celestial Force, good to see you. Every day at 2:00. Every day. Well, Monday through Thursday. But I am doing a members only tomorrow. Members only tomorrow. We're just gonna read Reddit stories because if you ever think that your life sucks, go on Reddit and just read some of those ridiculous "Am I the a-hole" stories because peop people have some crazy, crazy life stories. But it's so good to see you, Celestial Force. Uh, Moreover, as this court observed when denying motion to dismiss, there is no basis for granting immunity simply because some of the allegations in the indictment describe conduct that could be considered part of a judge's job. We know from bribery and other cases brought under Section 1505 that official acts, though lawful and in of themselves, can be intertwined with criminal conduct and thus evidence of a crime. I mean, as makes sense. Footnote 1, the defendant's proposed jury instructions 7 and 11, however, go well beyond the statutory definition of corruptly by requiring, for instance, that the defendant must also have acted with purpose of procuring an unlawful benefit, either for herself or for some other person. I did not read jury instructions because, one, jury instructions will be read at trial, so the final ones should be on the docket before the trial. And jury instructions, if you think motions are boring, jury instructions are the most boring part of a trial. Just, you know, inflict pain versus alleviate pain. And Tammy, thanks for the 5 gifted Squid Pro Club memberships. I appreciate you. In law, a private space is in one which expect privacy from public review in light of that chambers, courtrooms, and halls should not be off limits. You know, seems to be. You would think that the problem with your comment, and don't be mad at me, but the problem with your comment is you use logic and fact and a definition. You did not use your emotion in coming up with that comment. This is all laced with emotion. This whole situation is laced with emotion. She did not want someone to be arrested. She felt bad for someone. And it's okay to have empathy for people, but still realize that they're doing something illegal. As the government has consistently argued, and these cases reflect, a judge may use judicial acts or tools as the means to accomplish an unlawful end. Already put another way, the defendant may have been able to do certain things because of her judicial role, but that she was not privileged to do those things for an improper purpose. It's 1515b. A judge, no less than any other person, is subject to the process of the criminal law. U.S. v. Hastings. And yes, and judicial immunity, we've come to learn in the magistrate judges and the district judges' opinions, only really allows or applies to civil issues, does not apply to criminal actions. Totally agree with you. In fact, I hate I'm sorry to sound like Charlie Kirk, but I'm not a fan of empathy because empathy makes me have to put myself in your shoes, and I can't because I've never been in that position. Sympathy allows me to realize that I've never been in that position and still feel something for you. Yeah. Hey, Jen. Ugh. I wonder if the judge felt sorry for Irina as much as he felt sorry for this schmuck. Probably not, because I'm just gonna go with probably not, and not sure you want my opinion on that one. Yeah. Seventh Circuit made similar observations about lawyers in U.S. v. Cueto. Sorry. A case involving the question of whether an attorney acted in his professional capacity could be criminally liable under 1503. for traditional litigation-related conduct that results in an obstruction of justice. In that context, the Seventh Circuit noted that otherwise lawful conduct, even acts undertaken by an attorney in the course of representing a client, can transgress Statute 1503 if employed with the corrupt intent to accomplish that which the statute forbids. Citing U.S. v. Sintolo means though lawful in themselves, can cross the line of illegality if employed with a corrupt motive. While this court suggests that some form of limited immunity might attach to good faith judicial actions done in the ordinary course of a judge's duties, this emphatically not a case where a defendant is being prosecuted for erroneous judicial acts done in good faith. I mean, in briefing on motion to dismiss, the defendant attempted to portray graft or coercive sexual gratification. I forgot about that. Cases involving judges as categorically exceptions to a general rule of judicial immunity, rather than examples of the type of prosecutions that have been brought against judges. The court rejected that approach. And then, to the contrary, the government alleges and will prove that the defendant intended to prevent an individual's discovery or arrest and acted corruptly, i.e., with improper purpose, in endeavoring to obstruct or impede a proceeding. I like the way this is written. I mean, we're already on page 5. Then for me to get to page 5 without having some sort of criticism, and although I'm technically, God help me, on the government, the federal government side on this one. Oh, sorry, it hurts my brain to say that. This is still easy to read. Like, none of this is making me go, huh? What? Like the other one did, where I was like, that doesn't add up, or that's not right, or that's not legal, or that was a contradiction. This is not making me do that. The official-unofficial distinction that pervades the defendant's proposed instructions reflects the notion that the defendant, because she is a judge, is immune from prosecution for her official acts, regardless of mens rea. This court has already disavowed that approach, which cannot be squared away with the case law or the language of sections 1071 and 1505. For these reasons, the court should reaffirm its judicial immunity ruling, deny defendant's first motion in limine, and reject defendant's proposed instructions 4 and 5 and 11 through 21. Yeah, and lots of small words. He doesn't use big words just for the sake of using big words. And maybe that's why it's 22 pages, because it's lots of little words instead of, Motion to exclude witnesses pursuant to Rule 615. The defense moves to exclude non-party witnesses and order them not to discuss their testimony with other potential witnesses during trial, as long as the court exempts the case agent, Special Agent Aaron Lucker, pursuant to Federal Rule of Evidence 615. The U.S. does not oppose this motion. Rule 615 exempts the government's case agent. Motion to provide the jury with written instructions. Defendant's third motion requests that the court provide the jury with a written copy of its instructions for use during deliberations. No objection. Standard practice. What? Yeah, it was kind of like, why write something? And I felt like that just needed to be filler. Like, we just need to argue it for the sake of arguing. Motion to prohibit introduction of character evidence. Defendant's fourth motion seeks to bar introduction of any character evidence, including other crimes, wrongs, or acts from witnesses that has not been deemed previously by the court to pertain to an admissible purpose. To the extent this is simply meant as a request to reapply Rule 404, the U.S. has no objection. However, the U.S. states that Rule 404 does not apply to direct evidence of any element of the charged offenses. U.S. v. Farrell, U.S. v. Adams, explaining that if the evidence is admitted as direct evidence of the charged offense, Rule 404b is not applicable. Of course, extrinsic evidence may also be admissible for impeachment for bias, contradiction, or prior inconsistent statement. U.S. v. McGee. Motion to preclude evidence from defendants' violations of laws protecting victims' rights. In her fifth motion, defendant moves to prohibit U.S. from arguing or eliciting opinion testimony that she violated Article 1, Section 9M of the Wisconsin Constitution, otherwise known as Marsy's Law. The U.S. agrees that there should be not be a mini trial about whether the defendant violated Marsy's Law. However, as will be explained further below in response to her 9th motion in limine, how she handled EFR's hearing and whether it was routine or business as usual is relevant to her intent. EFR was charged with 3 counts of battery and domestic abuse. That is relevant because here is my thought process on this. Regardless of how you feel about immigration law, taking that completely out of the question, you're dealing with someone who was charged with 3 counts of domestic battery. You're dealing with a DV suspect here. Unless the person who he committed these alleged offenses against is like, no, I don't want to press charges, or no, I don't want, is also trying to conceal him. What do you think that person or people feels about this whole situation? This is where protecting criminals sucks. What about protecting the victims? Ask Lake and Riley's family how that worked out for her. The nature of those charges necessarily implied there were victims. Those victims were in the courtroom for EFR's hearing on April 18th. The evidence at trial will demonstrate that the defendant never afforded those victims the opportunity to speak, let alone notify them that the hearing was even occurring. That omission is particularly significant because the issue of victims' rights would have been the forefront on the defendant's mind due to the events in her courtroom that occurred earlier that same week. That the case to which the defendant refers, DA's Office v. Circuit Court of Milwaukee, involved the defendant refusing to allow a victim who had been threatened with a hole puncher to sit in her courtroom during opening statements at trial on April 15th of 2025. The victim filed a request for remedy on victim's rights violation, and the violation notice was handled by the bailiff to the defendant. The defendant then addressed the victim directly in open court, stating she was denying her claims as untimely. It ultimately led, as the defendant correctly notes, to the district attorney's office filing a supervisory writ to the Court of Appeals. The Court of Appeals denied the writ as moot, and so did not rule on the merits of the claim. Thank you for the government for providing that context, because this is one of the reasons that I moved out of this damn county. Because this is not right. Like, regardless of this whole thing, this situation that we're talking about is not, how she treats victims is not normal. At the next judges' meeting, April 23rd, the subject of Marsy's Law was on the agenda. Amongst the materials provided to the judges about Marsy's Law was the memorandum all of the judges had received previously. It was dated May 12th, 2020, from the Wisconsin Supreme Court, Office of Court Operations Legal Advisor, and addressed to all state court judges. The memorandum provided guidance to judges about Marsy's Law. I remember Marsy's Law. Like, I remember hearing a big thing about Marsy's Law when I lived up there. But I don't exactly remember what Marsy's Law was defined as. It specifically addressed scheduling meetings, conferences that happen off the record with attorneys, judges, clerks, and or judicial assistants, and specifically advised, under Marsy's Law, even scheduling meetings could constitute a proceeding that the victim is entitled to receive notification of, to attend, and make a statement at. Victims have a right to be heard at any proceeding during which their rights are implicated. Scheduling future hearings may implicate a victim's right to timely disposition of the case. The defendant handled EFR's case off the record. There's another issue. Yet another one, during which she quickly scheduled a future hearing without notifying the victims or the prosecutor. The victim witness advocate saw EFR exit through the jury door and had no idea what was going on. Whether the treatment of EFR's victims was a routine practice or an aberration is relevant to her state of mind. God, I'm liking this lady less and less every time. Ugh. Thank you. Marcy's Law is a constitutional amendment in Wisconsin that expands and enforces the rights of criminal victims, the criminal justice system, and amends Article 1, Section 9 of the Wisconsin Constitution, paves the building on a 1993 victims' rights provision. The amendment was proposed as a nationwide Marcy's Law for All campaign, named after Marcy Nicholas, California student murdered by her ex-boyfriend in '83, whose family advocated for stronger victim protections after discovering the accused was free on bail. Apparently, this courthouse, for those of you who are just arriving or have never heard of this particular case before or know what courthouse we're talking about, this is the same courthouse that handled Daryl Brooks before he went to Waukesha and decided to unalive people in a Christmas parade. This was the courthouse that let him go on $500 bail, if I'm remembering correctly. And he was also, I believe, charged with DV. So, that's what we're dealing with here. People who really don't give a crap about victims. So, But handling any case off the record, to me, is just some shady shit. Similarly, whether the treatment of EFR's victims was consistent with the guidance she received about Marcy's Law is likewise relevant to her intent. See U.S. v. Perano, affirming district court's rulings that the defendant's intent, willful or not, was the fact that could be made more or less probable by evidence of the defendant's training. See also U.S. v. Causey. To be relevant, evidence need not be... Did it die again? It died? I told you it was going to die. Here, give me the cord. Hand me the cord. Angel. She puts it right within my reach and then pulls it back. You want to plug it in? Let's plug it in. Let's charge it. Well, you're... Angel, if you don't give me the let go. Well, okay. You won't let go. Now you can't stop. You won't let me plug it in. Sorry, guys. Mama duties. Here. Hold on. It's the same thing. Okay. Oh, boy. Have kiss. I love you. Love you. Yeah, can you leave it? You gotta leave it plugged in now. Girl, you're gonna unplug it and you're not gonna be able to use it anymore. Yeah. You're welcome. My phone died. Her iPad died, but we ran into this problem at the beginning of the stream where it died. I plugged it in. She came in like 5 minutes later, unplugged it, walked away, and guess what? It died again. We haven't quite figured out that we need to leave things on the charger in order for them to actually, charge. Funny how that works. Yeah. All right. To be relevant, evidence need not conclusively decide the ultimate issue in the case, nor make the proposition appear more probable, but it must, in some degree, advance the inquiry. High five. Oh, thank you. She is watching K-pop Demon Hunters yet again. Jeffrey, she doesn't get a choice because after she falls asleep, we put it on the charger for her. Part of the problem with why the battery dies is she will turn it on to get background noise and then walk away and go play, but she will not turn it off. Like she walked out of the room and she left it on. So, you know, she left it running, but she walked out of the room. That's why the battery dies. Haven't mastered plugs in Power Watch. She doesn't plug in other things such as fork. We have all sorts of we have the plug covers. She can't do that. This is a plug that is specifically it is a USB port, and it's the one side is plugged in already, and she just has to plug the other side into her. She does not plug it in. She hands it to us to plug in. She just unplugs it. But she is not every plug in this house is either has something plugged into it or has an outlet cover because we aren't playing games with that. What's the screen time out set to? It's an iPad. So if there's a video playing, the video just keeps playing. Like if there's a movie playing on Netflix, like, you know. No. We just need to learn that we can't always get what we want. Yeah. She's lucky she has this one. She only has this one because of Grandpa. Ugh. All right. The defendant also argues that allowing the government to discuss potential effects of Judge Dugan's alleged conduct is collateral third party, is substantially prejudicial, and will confuse the issues and mislead the jury. It is unclear to whom the defendant is referring to when she references a collateral third party. If the effect is that defendant's actions had on the victim in the trial that occurred in the days preceding EFR's hearing, the U.S. agrees. The effect of her actions had on that victim would not be relevant. However, again, the guidance she received about the rights victims are afforded under state law and criminal proceedings is relevant to her intent and would not confuse the jury or be unfairly prejudicial. Do I believe it would be prejudicial? Hell yeah. I believe that would be highly prejudicial, but I don't think it would be unfairly prejudicial. You get one scoop. You get one scoop. She brought me a spoon. I get kisses first, right? Mwah. Love you. It's U.S. v. Burroughs, most relevant evidence by its very nature, prejudicial. Somebody screenshot that. Not you, Max Lab. Somebody else. Oh, no. If you haven't watched K-pop Demon Hunters, honestly, though, I'm not even a K-pop fan. I'm not an anime fan. It is a really good movie. The music is good. The animation is good. The plot line is good. It is just a good movie. And hey, Tammy. Can't always get what you want. You always get what you want. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you find you get what you need. I'm not going to sing it because I don't want your eardrums to explode. But relevant evidence is, by its very nature, prejudicial. And so the inquiry under Rule 403 is whether the evidence is unfairly prejudicial to require exclusion. Motion to preclude questioning witnesses about whether they personally believe the defendant is guilty. Defendant's sixth motion requests that the court prohibit the U.S. from questioning witnesses about whether they personally believe she's guilty. The U.S. does not object, so long the defendant is prohibited from doing the same. That is to say, the defendant may not question witnesses about whether they personally believe she is not guilty. That's fair. Do we still hate you today? I'm not sure. Personally, there are people who wake up every day, and the more I smile, the more they hate me, which, you know, and here you go. Who am I not to oblige? Um, she's my new arch nemesis. There are people who wake up on a daily basis and are pissed off that I exist. I live rent free in people's heads. Why? I have honestly no fucking idea, nor do I really care. I think it's hilarious. And my new channel and my merch store are powered by the hate of my haters and the tears of my haters. We love squid today. So modest. Sorry. Uh I don't know. Like it's like it's kind of one of those like when I know that me smiling makes somebody angry, like I said earlier, I'm gonna take a page out of Mr. Squid's playbook. Like, don't give anybody that power to know what makes you angry. Um, because when you give somebody that power, maybe. Mm, ah, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can name 4 specifically. Um, yeah. I can name I know the world has ours hats in it. I know. Like yeah, I can name 4 people that specifically hate me and have like a dossier that of trying to get evidence on me for some ungodly reason. The random things that people tell me, and I'm like, okay, that makes absolutely no sense, and that's kind of creepy, but okay. Like, if you want to be creepy, being creepy is not illegal, but it is creepy. Yeah, there's some people that have a dossier on me in a Discord server about evidence that I'm stalking them. Like, I wouldn't know they exist if people wouldn't keep telling me of their shitty actions. You know? Because having a dossier on someone that's not like legal documents is kind of creepy. That's just creepy. That's just creepy. Uh, the U.S. The U.S.'s agreement with the defendant's motion is premised on its understanding that it is only based on the limitations of federal rules of evidence 701 and 704, which are the rules the defendant cites in support. While not permitted to offer legal conclusions or opine on the application of statutory elements, lay witnesses may provide opinion testimony that is rationally based on the witness's perception and helpful to clearly understanding the witness testimony or to determining fact in an issue, and not based on scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge with the scope of Rule 702. An expert witness may also not testify about the mental state of the defendant. In support of her motion, defendant also cites U.S. v. Young. The Supreme Court's decision in Young addressed the improper vouching made by both prosecutor and defense counsel at trial. The Supreme Court said that defense counsel, like the prosecutor, must refrain from interjecting personal beliefs into the presentation of his case. I mean, that kind of makes sense. The Supreme Court also quoted the American Bar Association Standard for Criminal Justice, which stated that it is unprofessional conduct for Oh, here we go. Bubbles, if you're listening, take note. It is unprofessional conduct for a lawyer to express a personal belief or opinion in his client's innocence or personal belief or opinion in the truth or falsity of any testimony or evidence. Bubbles, take note. The insecurity of it, trying to dig up dirt. Just don't tell them about Vegas squid. That was a top secret mission. Shh, not supposed to tell anybody. God, Celestial, I love you. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, but you're freaking hilarious, and I love you. Oh. If by citing Young, The defendant meant to also request that the court expressly prohibit counsel for both parties to engage in improper vouching. The U.S. agrees, and such a directive would be appropriate. Motion to bar introduction of undisclosed expert testimony seems like a common thing. Seventh motion seeks to prohibit introduction of undisclosed testimony. The U.S. did not oppose this motion and does not intend to call an expert or to render an opinion on any specific technical or other issue requiring specialized knowledge within the meaning of Rule 702. Although not expert testimony, to avoid any later claim of surprise, the U.S. notes that to the extent that the parties fail to reach a stipulation, the government anticipates calling its case agent to authenticate excerpts of recordings she made from full digital audio recording obtained from the Wisconsin Office of State Courts. Interesting, given that full recording includes inputs from multiple microphones and both on the recorded statements and discussions off the record, including whispered discussions. Oh shit. Oh shit. Anyone know why expert witnesses are allowed to testify about the mental state in dependency cases but not criminal? Ye- I honestly don't. Huh. The government's case agent was able to play the recordings on a computer and adjust the relative volumes of various inputs. Yes, enhanced audio. If necessary, she will testify to the authenticity of the resulting excerpts. Although this is not an expert issue, the U.S. wanted it to mention here for the court's awareness. Similarly, as discussed in detail, the context of responding to defendant's eighth motion below, the U.S. will have one or more immigrations and customs ICE witnesses to describe where the issue and execution of the arrest warrant for EFR fit in his overall immigration proceedings. However, that will not be in the form of expert opinion. Rather, to the extent it is an opinion at all, it would be as permissible lay opinion. U.S. v. Estrada. Proper to admit lay opinions from federal government employees explaining the process and policies related to unblocking licenses and visa applications and the importance placed by their agencies on various requirements, because testimony was not based on specialized knowledge within the meaning of Rule 702, but simply an explanation of the policies and practice of their agencies. Bar expert testimony or lay opinions about the validity of administrative warrants and who has the authority to issue them. Seeks to prohibit the U.S. from eliciting expert testimony or legal opinion from lay witnesses regarding administrative warrants. The U.S. agrees that no expert opinion would be appropriate on any legal issue such as these. After all, that is the exclusive role of the district court judge who will address the relevant law in the jury instructions. It seems like all the U.S. is doing here is being like, yeah, that's proper procedure. See U.S. v. Bloom, explaining the meaning of statutes and regulations is subject for the court, not for experts, and that the only legal expert in a federal courtroom is the judge. U.S. v. Sinclair, noting federal rules of evidence 702 and 704 prohibit experts from offering opinions about legal issues, and that experts cannot testify about legal issues on which the judge will instruct the jury. Two legal matters cited in the defendant's motion fall squarely in that category. Pursuant to the Immigration and Nationality Act, and Secretary of Homeland Security and her delegates, including ICE agents, are by statute authorized to arrest and detain an alien with or without a warrant. And S.V. Dixon, D.C. Circuit 2025, explaining the legal framework and citing 8 U.S. Code 1226. Under the INA and its corresponding regulations, only designated officials, all of whom must completed immigration law enforcement training, are authorized to issue administrative arrest warrants, Forms I-200 and 205, based on probable cause findings as part of the civil immigration process, specifying the officials authorized by law to issue such warrants. The constitutionality of this legal framework is not in doubt, and its validity has not been challenged here. Explaining the courts from the Supreme Court The Seventh Circuit district courts around the country have recognized for decades that the authority to issue I-200 administrative warrants derives from the INA and its corresponding regulations. See also Abel v. U.S., discussing the statutory and regulatory basis for administrative warrants, noting that statutes allowing for the executive branch to order arrest of deportable aliens dates back to 1798. They just threw in a yes, they're being very worried about wordy about agreeing. The only reason I feel like they're being wordy is to cover all of their bases, which we've seen based on the responses and the motions in limine from Judge Dugan. She likes to be nitpicky and she likes to go on technicalities. So I believe the judge or the lawyer here is covering all his bases. 3 ads when I returned: cooking pans, men's pants, and glasses. Men's pants. What have you been doing? And describing the overwhelming historical legislative recognition of the proprietary of admin arrest for such individuals. As such, there's no need for any opinion from an expert or lay witness on the validity of an administrative warrant for EFR, rather that it is a legal determination for the court and the proper subject of an instruction to the jury, namely that an I-200 is a valid federal warrant process for the purposes of count 1. Nor is there a need to opine on what officials are authorized to issue such warrants. Supervisory detention and deportation officers are authorized to issue admin warrants, and the court should instruct the jury. The U.S. had not initially proposed a specific instruction because it had not realized this could truly be in dispute. That's where it's like he's being extra specific now because he didn't realize that he needed to explain half the shit he's explaining because it goes back to 1798. Like, it's not like it's a 2025 case that's setting the precedent. This precedent was set in 1798. We've got a little bit of time. We got, 1798, about the time when Spawn was born. I'm going to get a message for that. Getting mad at me. Because it had not realized that this could truly be in dispute. In any event, the U.S. intends to establish at trial that Anthony Nimitz, who found probable cause and signed the warrant at issue, is a supervisory detention and deportation officer. Yeah, i.e., we didn't know she was this stupid. Pretty much. On a related note, defendant has proposed to call legal expert on a related matter of law. Count 2 requires proof of pending proceeding. This is a very broad term used in Section 1505. U.S. v. Senefer. I suck at that name. Sorry. Spawn was hatched, not born. Oh, he's going to get all of us. Aged like a fine wine. Explaining that a proceeding is a very broad and comprehensive term. Yeah, the freaking defense was gonna call an expert to define what a proceeding is. That's how nitpicky of a person we're dealing with right now. In a particular step or series of steps adopted for accomplishing something and simply refers to a proceeding in the manner and form prescribed for conducting business before the department or agency, including all steps and stages in such action from its inception to its conclusion. Despite clear law that it would prohibit it, the defense has indicated that it plans to call an expert to opine that there was no pending proceeding in this case, as that term is used in Section 1505. The U.S. is separately moving to exclude that testimony, as this is a legal matter for the court and the proper subject of a jury instruction indicating that a pending proceeding includes all steps related to removal or reinstatement of removal by DHS and ICE, including the execution of an admin warrant. See 2 Modern Federal Jury Instructions 4604. Oh my goodness. Spawn Trooper was a knight at King Arthur's court. Do we just need to have a day where we just roast Spawn? We just need to have a roast Spawn and Squid day. She's screwed and she's trying to perform a mat skin and delay or disrupt. That's what we're officially calling it, a mat skin. That'll work. Coining the term. Although it's helpful to define a proceeding for the jury, the question of whether an agency action is a proceeding is a question of law decided by the judge. U.S. v. Frickman. No error when the district court instructed the jury that the matter was at issue was a proceeding within the meaning of 1505. As the definition of proceeding as used in the statute was a question of law to be determined by the court rather than the jury. Whether an agency action constitutes a proceeding is a question for the judge, not the jury, basically saying it again. Whether an agency audit referenced an indictment constitutes a proceeding, that term is employed in 1505, presents a question of law. U.S. v. North, finding it indisputable that the question of whether a proceeding constitutes an inquiry under 1505 is a matter of law for the court. Like, jury is the finder of fact, judge is the finder of law. It doesn't seem like that hard. But I think she's confused because she's a judge, so she thinks she's more important than she is in this particular situation. In any event, given the elements of the charged offenses, the U.S. will have witnesses from ICE prepared to testify as to the issuance of the arrest warrant for EFR and where the attempted execution of that warrant fit in the overall immigration process for him. That is neither expert testimony nor legal opinion, but instead permissible factual testimony from individuals with knowledge. And to the extent it is viewed as providing any opinion, as noted above, would be a permissible lay opinion. Testimony from Treasury and State Department employees explaining the process for license and visa application and the impact the defendant's conduct would have on their agency was a lay testimony, not an expert opinion. Prohibit expert testimony from lay witnesses regarding court procedures. Eliciting expert testimony from lay witnesses regarding Milwaukee County Circuit procedures. There's no further explanation, merely a citation to Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 16A, which governs discovery, and Federal Rule of Evidence 701, which allows lay opinions. U.S. not sure of the intended scope of this motion or its reference to court procedures. In addition, although the defendant recently produced the Circuit Court's procedural rules as reciprocal discovery, their relevance to the charged offenses is not apparent. Motion cites 701. Under that rule, lay opinions must be rationally based on the witness's perception, helpful to clearly understand the witness's testimony or determining fact, and not based on scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge. The final requirement is designed to eliminate the risk that the reliability requirement set forth in 702 will be evaded simply expedient proffering an expert in the lay witness clothing. Yeah. Key distinction for the third element is whether the subject of testimony is specialized because it's beyond the ability of an average juror to understand, as opposed to just based on particularized knowledge based on a personal experience about a topic a juror could understand when the information is conveyed. Yeah, like policies and procedures for a hospital. Like, you don't have to be a doctor to understand the policies and procedures for a hospital. A layperson could describe them. You don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to describe them. However, in order to describe a heart surgery, you probably need to be a heart surgeon. Difference between layperson testimony about a policy and procedure and an expert testimony in something that I understand. I'm reading, but way too tired and bored to respond, so I'll be going directly to the source, Santa, to make sure y'all's names are on the naughty list. Take it under advisement. For example, the advisory committee has explained that an individual can provide a lay opinion about the practices or the effect or course of conduct on his employer's business, not because of experience, training, or specialized knowledge within the realm of an expert, but because of the particularized knowledge that the witness has by virtue of his position in the business. Ooh, they have a Holcine Enterprises, LLC versus Fazio Mechanical Services, Northern District of Ohio, October 19th of 2025. Just over a month old. Any testimony from witnesses about court procedures in this case will not involve expert testimony on a subject that is outside of the ability of jurors to comprehend, but factual observations and perceptions. For example, lawyers, court personnel, and law enforcement might describe the routine sight of individuals being arrested in public hallways. Victims' advocates might describe their role and procedures for making sure victims, like EFR's victims, are allowed to exercise their rights. Otherwise, witnesses with firsthand experiences will testify that non-public hallways are locked from the main hallway and are not routinely used by anyone other than court staff, employees, or jurors, and they have never seen a judge waive a defendant in a criminal case into that area. Multiple witnesses are likely to testify that despite being in the courthouse on a regular basis, they don't recall ever seeing a judge wearing a robe in the hallway other than for ceremonial functions. Oh, what exactly an expert does she plan on calling? Someone to testify on what a procedure is, or what a proceeding is. That's for the judge to decide. It clearly would not involve rendering an expert opinion on something requiring scientific, technical, or specialized knowledge. Rather, it would involve factual observations, in some instances, permissible lay opinions to explain why they took notice of certain conduct and why they found it unusual. Observations and perceptions are relevant to the defendant's intent in this case. Her filings and statements to the media repeatedly state that she did nothing wrong, and the evidence will show that her conduct and the proceedings that day were routine and simply business as usual. To the extent witnesses testify that conduct was not usual, that would be based on their own perception, helpful to understanding their testimony or determining a fact in an issue, and not based on scientific or specialized expertise. Motion to allow jury to hear statements made by Attorney General and Director of the FBI. She argues these statements are admissions of a party opponent within the meaning of Federal Rule of Evidence and are relevant because they show bias in the investigation and prosecution. It is true that bias is broadly admissible on issues of credibility, but neither the Attorney General nor the FBI Director is going to testify. If they do, I will be sure to drive my butt back home and go to this, and I will live tweet. Further, as the government has argued elsewhere, evidence of what the defendant calls bias in the investigation is extraneous, collateral, and irrelevant to defendant's guilt or innocence. The court should reject defendants' transparent attempts to inject national political figures into a trial about what happened in and around her courtroom at Milwaukee County Courthouse on April 18th. Indeed, it should affirmatively disallow such evidence. Motion to compel production of audio and transcripts. Defendant seeks an order compelling to produce enhanced versions of audio recordings. The defendant asserts that disclosure is required if the enhanced recordings or transcripts include her statements under FRCP 16, that they should be made available for inspection because they are material to defense preparation and the government intends to use them in its case in chief. And they should be available for examination and copying if the government intends to use excerpts as summaries under Federal Rules of Evidence. The government produced the original audio recordings to the defendants months ago, and on October 20th, 2025, provided working copies of the enhanced recordings. As discussed in Section 7, there will be no material difference between the substance of the original recordings and the final version of the enhanced recordings, which will merely isolate, increase, or decrease the volume of various microphone inputs to focus on relevant discussions. The entire duration of the recordings, which include on and off the record discussions inside courtroom 615 on the morning of April 18th, is less than 40 minutes long. Under these circumstances, it's difficult to imagine how the defendant could be surprised, unfairly prejudiced, or incapable of preparing her defense based on what she already has in her possession. We already gave it to you. No. Sorry, that's like a one. I gave this case to Megan, and I told this. I messaged Megan about this case back in May or April, I think May, and she never messaged me back, and that's the last time that I ever had contact with her. Secondly, that's my hometown, so no. We're just gonna end that one quickly. So, no. But I did give her the opportunity to, like, because I thought this would be good for her, like, wall of shame and judges issues, but she never responded to me, so I don't think so. Um, but she wanted to know what specific portions that they were gonna use. The video apparently is only 40 minutes long. So, you want specific? It's 40 minutes, like, take 40 minutes out of your damn day and listen to it. She wanted the government to go above and beyond what they need to do, 'cause she's lazy, and apparently so is her legal team. Nevertheless, government anticipates producing final versions of enhanced recordings and a transcript to the defense as soon as these items are finalized, and certainly in advance of the final pretrial conference. Government also identify relevant excerpts of recordings in its exhibit list and will also seek a stipulation to the admissibility of the enhanced recordings and transcripts to streamline trial proceedings. For these reasons, defendant's 11th motion in limine should be denied as moot. Can't rule on something that we've already done. Yeah, all they need is the part of her escorting him out the door. And experts to testify, or not experts, but just lay people, a bailiff, someone who's in that courtroom every day, say, I have never seen this in the 3 years that I've worked here. I have never seen, a judicial assistant for a different judge. I have never seen a judge out in the hallway. Just the basics. And I think that's why this didn't take too long. The recording's only 40 minutes. We're only talking about, like, one action. The guy is deported, so rule of completeness relates to audio recordings and seeks an order authorizing her to introduce any portions of the recording which she demonstrates in fairness should be contemporaneously considered pursuant to Rules of Evidence 106 to determine whether the evidence qualifies or explains the evidence offered by the opponent. Courts use a 4-part test. Does it explain the admitted evidence? Does it place the admitted evidence in context? Will admitting it avoid misleading the trier of fact? Will admitting it ensure fair and impartial understanding of all evidence? The completeness doctrine does not, however, require introduction of portions of a statement that are neither explanatory nor relevant to the admitting passages. And then the last one, the government does not object to the introduction of any portion of recordings inside courtroom 615 on that morning. The U.S. had already agreed to provide applicable grand jury materials 2 weeks before trial. Defendant's final motion seeks an order that government produce grand jury materials at least 2 weeks before trial. Before the defendant filed her motion, the U.S. already had agreed to provide applicable grand jury materials to her counsel by that date. Once again, she wrote something that does not mean. The U.S. therefore has no objection to the entry of an order requiring it to provide grand jury materials for the witnesses it intends to call in its case in chief at least 2 weeks before trial. Richard Froling, man, he's on fire with these motions because his writing is easy to read. Like, we made it through 34 pages of documents, and we literally went through 22 pages of this document in the same amount of time that we went through 14 pages of her lawyers. It Why can't she just admit she did wrong, avoid more bad press? No, 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 let's try and get a motion in that makes her look even worse, a human being and really dumb. Yeah, because I would not have gone investigating, and I would have not have known that she has a problem with victims' rights and a past history with victims' rights, but now we do. And now all of her cases that involve victims' rights should be called into question and possibly reinvestigated. However, that is all I have for you. We are almost 2.5 hours in. Thanks for the 24 people who stuck around. hanging out with me. Let's see what we've got going on here. I think I have us set up to redirect because AJ is not going live today. How dare she spend time with her family? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I think I have us set up to redirect to I believe Roslyn is doing a stream at 6 o'clock. So you got an hour and a half, but go over there and drop a like. I'm glad that we finally got all those motions. Part 3. Thanks for joining me for the marathon. Tomorrow we'll probably be doing a members only around 5 o'clock, maybe 6 o'clock. Just reading Reddit stories and kind of having an Ask Me Anything hangout. Just because we just need a day where we just laugh at other people, because next week's going to be a doozy, because next week we have senators, sitting members of Congress that are telling the military not to follow Pete Hegseth and President Trump's laws. You don't tell military members, active military members, to not follow their laws that they've been given and the instructions that they've been given when you can't prove that they are unconstitutional, which under certain parts of our Constitution can be seen as incitement, and incitement of an insurrection and or I'm still looking into. I'm going to compare what was said in the videos that they released. Could be seen as rebellion or insurrection or seditious conspiracy, advocating for overthrow of the government, all things that are not good. Not good. Yeah. Before I call it full-on treason, I am going to listen to what they actually said, because I heard the videos, but I kind of skipped through them. But I have uscode.house.gov up right now, chapter 115, treason, sedition, and subversive acts. We're going to be doing some word comparison. But that is one thing next week. And a Miami congresswoman has been indicted in federal court for allegedly embezzling $5 million from FEMA. So yet another congresswoman, a Democrat congresswoman at that, embezzling money from FEMA when Florida was hit by multiple hurricanes last year. And I was one of those people who got that nice $750 from FEMA. There was Dan Davis, who's been in the chat. You've seen Dan Davis a lot of places. Roslyn made a video about his situation last year. He was out of power for, I want to say, 200 and some odd days. But yet she somehow thinks $5 million. She supposedly put it back into her campaign funds. I don't know. I haven't seen the indictment yet. It is not currently on Pacer yet. But I'm going to look at the indictment that has been released to the media. Yeah, that's on the docket for next week. We also have more of the Levy County drama that I'm sure is going to drop. There's just all sorts of stuff for next week. I also have another video dropping next Wednesday on the other channel that is going to be related to balance, and how your balance and little balance checks can lead to false, and how to fix. It's going to be busy. Also on that next on the other channel, we have a live on Sunday. Every Sunday morning, we do a live at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time, where we go over the video before from the week before, and I answer your questions. So, y'all, it's gonna be a busy time. Maybe. Hopefully, my pretty will be back and feeling better by next week, where we can get her opinion on a bunch of stuff because I haven't talked to her lately. Well, I've talked to her, just not about this stuff. So I have a lot to talk to her about. And of course, you will see Spawn. Oh, and there's more airplane stuff. The government, the FAA dropped another emergency AD, grounding all DC-10s. The impact of that, what that means for just the platform in general. Still waiting for the preliminary report, but based on that new AD, I have thoughts. My troubleshooting and avionics brain, when I see other things, it kind of goes into, I mean, anybody who's troubleshot an issue, your brain starts to work in that troubleshooting mode. So we have a whole, no, that's Tuesday. That's all three of us, genius. That's all three of us. But she's not feeling well. You're just tired. There's a difference. You're tired. You just need to take a nap. She needs to feel better. So there's a difference. And what is it for congressional members to tell them to break ranks and disobey? Yeah, there's that too. I have an avionics brain. I have a lot of different hats that I wear based on different careers I've had in my life. Yeah. So with that being said, we have a lot going on next week. So I am going to go. I am going to go. I have a lot of work to do over the weekend. I will see y'all tomorrow. We will read Reddit stories and just kind of chill and chat and probably crack open a bottle of wine and just relax. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one.